Okay guys, before we get into dealing with Mr. Kaepernick, I had something I really had to share with you guys. I had explained to you before these unsafe place videos I do, they were going to be unmonetized on the channel because YouTube's new enforcement of these terms about, making everything very vanilla and inoffensive to everyone would result in them immediately being demonetized. And if I got a bunch of them demonetized, the channel could be shut down, etc. So I went to demonetize the last video we had, found out I can't do it on my channel. Just scrambling around trying to figure out why the fuck I can't take monetization off my own videos. Found out it's because of my network. Now I only belong to a network, if you watched the last video, because of YouTube fuckery that forced me into it in the first place. So now I've been trying to get a hold of my network to tell them to allow me to demonetize some of my videos, you greedy motherfuckers. But so far, that hasn't come to fruition. They haven't responded to me. I reached out via email, reached out via Twitter. Nothing. I'm sure they're going to say, oh, it was a holiday weekend. Well, I don't stop existing on a holiday weekend. Apparently they do. But that's where we stand right now. More YouTube fun. Any of you thinking of becoming a YouTuber? Just go to the dentist and have work done without Novocaine. You'll find it much more satisfying. So, who is Colin Kaepernick anyway? Colin, whatever the fuck it is. Who is he? Well, he is the quarterback. Well, actually, not the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. A quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Because apparently he won't even be the starter because, well, as a quarterback, he kind of sucks. Now, Mr. Kaepernick has recently made the news because of his refusal to stand for the national anthem in what he feels is his own form of social protest. Now, this has created a firestorm of activity across social media and throughout all of the nation. Some people saying, well, listen, that flag represents his right to not stand if he wants to, which I totally agree with. Colin Kaepernick has every right to sit down during the national anthem if he would choose to do so. That's part of his freedoms within this country. However, what some people on that side tend to forget is, if there are those of us who want to say that he's a douchebag for using that as his platform, for using that as his form of protest, we're also entitled to that. And yes, I think Colin Kaepernick is a giant douchebag. I think he's very disingenuous, and I don't think he has good intentions at all. I think it's all about him. Now, I didn't come to these conclusions without thought. I do think on occasion, and I'll lay all these thoughts out for you. But I will say this, if there's anybody that should be protesting, it should be any San Francisco 49er fans who bought tickets to their games hoping that Colin Kaepernick was going to lead them somewhere because, yeah, he sucks. Now, right here on good old-fashioned paper, good old hard copy, I have Colin Kaepernick's quotes explaining why he is choosing to sit down during the national anthem. And I'll read them for you now to be fair so that everybody knows what his train of thought is. Mr. Kaepernick says, and I quote, "I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder." Now, I assume that last part is directed at police violence towards citizens. And we all know that's a hot topic issue. It's obviously a serious issue in this country. While I believe that the vast majority of police officers are good people and really just out there trying to protect the people they're paid to represent, there are some bad apples in there. I agree with Kaepernick and anyone else that any police officer that uses excessive force for no good reason whatsoever, they should face the stiffest of penalties, absolutely. Not only thrown off the police force, face criminal charges. As a police officer, you have to realize you're going to have to deal with a certain amount of shit and restrain yourself to a degree. Now, a police officer who ever has legitimate reason to believe their life is in danger, hey, bad guys, don't make cops feel that way, you won't get shot. But yes, there are police officers that are bad. I know that, even though my personal experiences with cops of every color has been predominantly good. I know I'm not supposed to even relate that in the story because I'm white, so I'm not supposed to have an opinion on that. But I've run into police officers of every nationality, and my experiences have been good. But I do understand there's bad ones out there, and they should absolutely be held accountable for their actions. But now let's take this step by step, and let's start with the idea of him sitting down during the national anthem as a protest to police violence. First of all, is Colin Kaepernick sitting down at the national anthem actually an effective or needed method for bringing about attention to this issue? This issue itself over the past several months in this country has probably gotten more attention than any other it's probably gotten more attention than the presidential elections. We're all aware that there's an issue here. Colin Kaepernick boarding this train really late does seem kind of self-indulgent. Just kind of like, hey, everybody else is on it. I'm going to show you that I'm with you. I'm a man of the people. It doesn't seem super genuine to be coming along with it this late, but whatever. Give him the benefit of the doubt. However, that said, he talks about oppression, the oppression of people of color. And this is where I start to have a little bit of an issue. Now, if you get beyond the police, and we're taking that out of the equation, we're all in agreement that bad cops should face real consequences for no matter who they commit a heinous act against, no matter what color or where, all bad cops should have to face their consequences. Now, that said, when you talk about oppressing people of color, who exactly are you talking about? And I'm not insensitive to this. I don't think anybody should be oppressed. I think everybody in America should have the same opportunities available to them as far as from the governmental level. But who's being oppressed? And the reason I ask this is it's not hard to look around and see how many wildly successful people of color we have in this country, including our president. And you had a Republican candidate for president that led in the polls actually for a while during the primaries, Ben Carson, brilliant man, great surgeon. I mean, we have a lot of prominent black people, but even more so than that, there's a lot of people of color that are just like me, that are just living, the everyday middle-class life in America. And I don't see where this oppression is coming in. The best way I can describe this is, you guys know that we're big Disney nuts. When we go to Disney World, we always, finding different people to talk to on the bus and the parks and stuff. And I see people of color in there all the time. And when we talk, it's like, they're the same as me. They're going to work every day and they're doing a little extra work on the side, a lot of them, to be able to afford to go to Disney World and make things better for their families. It just seems like there's so many people of every race, every color, every religion that are living this same American, if not dream, existence. Why are some being singled out for oppression? Before you start demonstrating against or protesting against this oppression, shouldn't you at least be able to clearly define it? Very important thing to remember. Oppression is not the same thing as not taking advantage of opportunities that exist. If a child decides not to pay attention in school, if they decide to go the gang route instead of the education route, that's not oppression, that's a life choice. And those choices are clearly not limited to people of color. As you can see, because this lighting makes me almost transparent, I'm literally white. I know a lot of other white people. Now, I know people, white people, black people, Hispanic people. I know many of them who have done better in life than me. I know many who are in basically the same station of life as me. And I also know a lot who aren't doing quite as well. The one thing I've been able to determine from all that is the majority of people doing better than me worked harder than me, wanted more. They prioritize things in their own manner to get ahead financially or to get ahead in whatever field they wanted to. The people with me have led a similar life to me. We're average working Joes and Janes and go out and do our thing. And the people below me, a lot of them just simply didn't put forth the effort, period. Might not like hearing that. It might be like, oh, well, the system's keeping me down, or the man's keeping me down, or I ain't got this, I ain't got that. No, you don't wait for things to be given to you. You go out and get them. If you do want to wait for them to be given to you, that's fine, that's your choice. But then don't bitch because you're not keeping up with the people that are out there doing it. And that cuts across everything. Every social strata there is, race, color, religion. That's the way it is in America. If you want something, go out and get it. So why is Kaepernick's method of trying to bring attention to these issues less effective than it should be and not a particularly good one? Well, when you sit down for the national anthem, you're doing it knowing that you're going to offend a lot of people. I mean, it's a symbol of those who have come before. It's a symbol of those who have fought and died to keep this country free and to provide you with the right to say and do whatever you want. So, of course, it's going to be offensive to a lot of people. But what takes it a step further than that is it's the easy way out, Colin. It's the easiest thing to do. You sit down during the national anthem, look at all the attention you're getting for yourself. I mean, you're a second-rate quarterback in San Francisco. Your career's, if you follow your career trajectory, you're probably on the way out, and you're getting a ton of attention for yourself. And the reason I say that is there are things, if you were genuinely concerned, if you genuinely wanted to make a difference, there are things you could do. You could be going to the inner cities and talking to kids, because even as a second-rate quarterback in the NFL, what you say would have some resonance with them. You could talk to kids, tell them how to reach that next level. You could, if you're worried about the cops, you could even explain to them the best way to handle themselves in those situations. They'll listen to you. If you see areas that you think the police violence against black people is heavy, go into those cities and go right to the city council meeting. Take your limited celebrity, go in there, wherever that may be, whether it's Milwaukee, wherever it might be, go into Milwaukee, go to the city council meeting, stand up, say, my name is Colin Kaepernick, here's what I believe. We're going to watch you. We want to see, we saw this heinous act take place, and the world's going to be watching what you do. Hold those people accountable. Then you can make a difference. Sitting your ass down during the national anthem, that's cheap, that's easy. Really affecting change, that would take some effort. I think Colin Kaepernick works with a couple ulterior motives in all this. You see, I got reading up on him as this all took place, and I learned more about him. Colin Kaepernick does not come from the inner city. He does not come from the streets that are jungles, that are rough, where you have to choose whether or not to be part of a gang to exist. He was adopted when very, very little by a white family, and he's biracial himself. And he had a very nice upbringing, a very comfortable upbringing. And I honestly believe that Colin Kaepernick wants acceptance from those who do not have that type of upbringing. He wants acceptance from the people who are struggling every day with deciding whether or not to join the gang, or whether, how they're going to survive, get their next meal, make their way in the world. He wants acceptance from them. And so I personally believe this is his way of trying to gain that acceptance by making this little grandstand move. Now, here's another reason why Colin Kaepernick is not the kind of person you probably would really want at the forefront of your social movement. For those of you who didn't catch it, a few weeks ago, he was caught on the practice field with a pair of pig cop socks. He had on socks that had little pictures of pigs with police hats on them. So what's that statement saying? It's saying that cops are pigs. Now, when you're crying for social justice, what is the requisite for creating true social justice? It's not lumping any group of people in as one. It's understanding that people are individuals, and within every group there can be some bad apples. That doesn't make this group of people bad. So Colin Kaepernick, on one hand, is basically saying all cops are pigs because there are some bad police officers. However, I'll bet you if you were to show Mr. Kaepernick a picture from the Milwaukee riots, and there were plenty of them, of people of color happily running out of stores with electronics in their arms as they looted the neighborhoods. Didn't look like a social protest. Looked like an opportunity to get some cool shit for your house. If that picture was presented and said, this is representative of the people who live in Milwaukee, the inner city of Milwaukee, he wouldn't appreciate that. Nor should he. Nor should anyone. Those are the bad apples within the group. And we've got to be able to understand that there's a difference. But Colin Kaepernick does not extend that to groups that he finds distasteful, to the groups that he feels he must oppose to gain that acceptance he wants. Nah, he's not a social warrior. And then I really had to laugh because I read an article that said Colin Kaepernick is brave for taking this risk. He's taking a risk by sitting down for the national anthem because, boy, now he could end up being cut from the team because of the negative feedback, so on and so forth. Bullshit! It's the exact opposite. I think Colin Kaepernick has a plan for his whole career with this thing. And I'm going to read you another Kaepernick quote. I got it here on my good old-fashioned hard copy again. Colin Kaepernick said this. Now, and I'll tell you why this is telling. I'll tell you why telling, my words. This is a quote. I am not looking for approval. I have to stand up for people that are oppressed. If they take football away, my endorsements from me, I know that I stood up for what is right. This is a guy whose career is failing, and he's out there trying to give himself a failsafe. If you cut me from the team, if you take away my endorsements, it's because of my stance on social issues. It's not because I suck as a quarterback. He's hedging his bets. That quote tells you it. That quote is all over it. Right now, it's the exact opposite of what was portrayed. He's not taking a risk. The Niners are in a terrible position now. If they cut him, there's going to be a huge amount of flashback saying that, hey, you got rid of him just because he's trying to stand up for the oppressed. And Colin Kaepernick, for being kind of, in my opinion, a douchebag, he's playing his cards right. He's trying to protect himself with all this, and that quote almost comes out and says it. Okay, gang, in closing, let me just say that I am well aware that there's still a racism issue in this country. And I may make a video based just on this in the future, but let me tell you, as well, I can't even say, unfortunately, middle-aged anymore, as an old white guy, it's almost shocking to me how many people that I barely know or that I just meet, other white people, are willing to use racial slurs in conversation and everything with me, like we're all part of some old boys network and that should be acceptable. That's disturbing. I think racism exists at every level. I think there are black people who just genuinely don't like whites. I think there are, Jewish people who don't like Christians, Christians who don't like Jews. I think it goes on all over the place, but it's absolutely there and it's real, and that's unfortunate. However, there are avenues, especially for athletes, especially for people that have a little bit of oomph behind their words because of what they've achieved in life. There are some great avenues to go about trying to affect real change. Sitting down during the national anthem, that's grandstanding. That is, for the most part, being just disrespectful to a lot of people who came before you. That's all it is. Because that's not going to do anything to affect real change. Real change is a boots on the ground type thing. When you're that motivated, when you feel the need to stand up for social injustice, you would be at the center of that social injustice, fighting for it. Hey, Colin Kaepernick's got more than enough money to be able to grab a flight to wherever he needs to go. He could be a crusader against social injustices instead of just some second-rate quarterback who's kind of a douchebag sitting on the bench during the national anthem. For me personally, I find Colin Kaepernick to be obnoxious. I think he's disingenuous. And if he's not disingenuous, then I think he's just a moron. Because what he's doing, I don't think, goes anyways towards affecting a positive end for people who might be experiencing social injustice. It's just trying to affect a positive end for Colin Kaepernick. And that's unfortunate because it takes away from attention from a lot of people who aren't getting headlines and are out there actually trying to make a difference. So my opinion of Colin Kaepernick, second-rate quarterback, fourth-rate social warrior.